Find other great podcasts like this one at podmoth.network.
Hi, I'm Molly.
And I'm Abigail.
We're sisters.
And we believe in ghosts.
Welcome to Supernatural Sisters, a podcast all about ghostly encounters, bone-chilling monsters, and basically anything that goes bump in the night. Each week, we talk about a haunted place, a legendary monster, or a story that sends shivers down our spines. And maybe we'll talk about the pottery scene from Ghost.
He's not a ghost in that scene. There are other parts of that movie where he's a ghost.
Subscribe wherever you get podcasts.
And remember, we believe you.
Hey, Twisted listeners. I'm Cindy.
And I'm Diva.
And this is Twisted Listeners, a podcast about murder.
And Liz. I don't know why I wanted to do or today.
We're leaving that in.
Oh, no.
And we're brought to you by the Podmoth Podcasting Network. They're amazing. Check out the other podcasts on there. We're having a rough start already.
I can't remember the words that we're supposed to say. It's very early.
It is early. Also, we know we're on a strict timeline because I have somewhere to be, and then Diva's going out of town, so we're trying to record both halves right now. And I think we're low-key a little nervous about it, maybe.
Yeah.
Didn't realize. Also, I'm sick, so if I sound a little huskier, a little sexier... Sultry. I don't know if husky's the word. Can you sound husky?
I just pictured the dog when you said husky.
That's fair. Sometimes they have a kind of raspy bark. So if I sound that way, you're welcome. My voice sounds good. Okay. This week we're doing, did you choose? You chose.
Yes, I did choose. Yes.
Okay.
This is murder hotels because we did murder houses last or 2 years ago, which we might redo. And so I kind of wanted to do spooky murder, kind of cursed murder hotels. And to be fair, there's lots and lots of haunted hotels.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do ones that specifically have had murders, not just their owner's haunted, but the ghosts are also murdered.
Legitimate, traceable.
Yeah.
Murders. Yeah. Stories of murder. Yes. Okay. I think that's a great idea, but okay, here's my thing. I didn't leave LA. I did both in LA.
You stayed in LA. I'm doing the non-LA places. I'm covering that. Also, I want to note that I'm about to go stay in hotels for 10 days. So this is a perfect and appropriate. And also the first one I'm staying at in Amsterdam is old. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize that, and I looked at and I'm I don't know if I would have consciously picked a 17th century building, and I'm oh no, okay, all right.
Well, good luck.
So this topic is going to be my reality, but hopefully it won't be this bad as the ones in this episode.
Yeah, the ones everybody knows the ones I chose, or at least one of them. They're pretty gnarly, and they go up to modern day, so it's very exciting. And since you chose, I'm going to go first, and I'm going to start with the Hotel Barclay. This is downtown. It was literally steps from where I lived when I lived in downtown. I lived between 5th and 6th Street on Main, and this is the corner of 4th and Main, and I have walked by this building, looked inside this building a gajillion
So the
times.
two hotels you're covering are in the same 2 blocks.
They're on the same street, 1.5 blocks away from each other.
Do you think there's something with the street being
Main
cursed?
Street? Yeah.
Yeah.
I walked down that street at 1 a.m, and it's gotta feel
the vibes are off.
Yeah, big time. It's a fucked up spot. The building that we lived in was the Pacific Electric, and so that's where all the trains were until GM came in and bought them out and made LA a terrible car city. Fuck you, by the way, for that. Or not GM, GE. Sorry, GE. General Electric. So our building doesn't have any hauntings, or the building we used to live in, but it had really cool, giant archways that trains would fit through. So, a lot of the, it was fucking really, really cool. Anyway, we're going to talk about the Hotel Barclay. So, this is more of a survey because there's so much that goes on. It's a little different, I think, than what we do usually, where we're more in depth at this point, but I think it's still really interesting. So the Barclay Hotel was originally called the Van Nuys Hotel, because it was built by a guy with the last name Van Nuys, which P.S. I live right next to the city of Van Nuys. So this
Same guy?
Yeah, a lot of money, a
Yeah.
lot of reach. It was built in 1894 is when they started, and it finished in 1897. Like I said, corner of 4th and Main. It has 6 stories. The bottom story had a bar, a dining room, a lobby, the works. It was like you walk in and it's like this beautiful, welcoming area. People can go get dinner. They have like a full kitchen. It was just meant for the rich and famous,
Yeah.
It cost in 1894 $275,000 to build, which in today's dollars is just under 10 million.
Okay, so that's a lot for the time. It sounded like a lot for the time.
Yes, but also like for what you could get for that much money back then and what you could get for that much money now is also different. So they had like beautiful, like all these beautiful woods that were like brought in, imported. They had stained glass. They had like, I mean, it sounds like a lot of money, but 10 million now, like the houses around here that are like 2-bedroom, 900 square feet are like $1 million. So it doesn't compute the same.
No.
So the other thing about this hotel that made it so expensive was that it had both electricity and a telephone in every room.
Whoa, ritzy.
Very, very fancy pants. It was a Beaux-Arts building, very ornate. And I realize that might not be exactly how you're supposed to say it, but
I think it is.
It's close. Yeah, it's Beaux-Arts.
I mean,
you're not supposed to say the S on art if you're actually saying it French.
Oh, well, I mean, American people say Beaux-Arts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was very ornate, like I said, stained glass, all the nice wood, super high tech. Here's an excerpt from the LA Times announcing the opening, which I love because it's written in like old timey LA Times style.
Yeah. Nice.
The furnishing of I'm going to start over. The furnishings of the bedroom are of rich character. The carpets are of late and elaborate patterns, and the furniture of oak, birch, bird's eye maple, and mahogany. There are 60 private and 10 public baths in the hotel. The stationary washstands in each room are conveniently arranged with mirror and electric light over each. A neat device for the electrical heating of curling irons in each room is a new feature of special interest to the ladies.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Very cute.
Very cute. So this, like I said, it was a place for the rich and famous. It's really interesting to me how you can kind of track the history of LA's downtown. Like it started as being this very like booming place where celebrities came, and then like the Great Depression hit and it just like fell to shit literally until like I was living down there was when the transition back. And I lived down there in like 2008, 2009. And that's right when things were starting to become like downtown was starting to become this booming place again. Literally for like 50 plus years, 70 plus years.
Yeah.
Downtown LA was like a gnarly wasteland. So
yeah, I mean, I feel like you could say some things about its present state too.
It's terrible. It's still terrible, but it's full of ivory towers with rich people living in them and driving in and out of their closed garages and like.
Yes. Now, when I think of downtown, I just think of a very extreme contrast in like realities. It's like fancy luxury apartment and then like homeless encampment, like side by side.
Yes, absolutely. So in the 1900s to 1920s, this was a popping place. It's never got back to that quite yet. And I think COVID destroyed the possibility again. Also, more broadly and more accurately, capitalism. But anyway.
Yeah. Also, I want to say downtown's like really hard to get to and annoying. Like, I don't want to go there.
Oh, it's the worst. Yeah, it's the worst. Once you're there, it's really fun. And like, I love it. Like a midweek trip in the middle of the day can be okay if you're on like the outskirts. But otherwise, fuck it. Okay. So let's get to the creepy stuff. In 1897, 2 months after opening, the first death occurred. So 2 months in, and here we go. The first couple of deaths will be elevator deaths. So gnarly, but not like murdery. This first death happened to a waiter named Charles Gamble. He was going up to do room service. Everywhere I read, they're like, he was delivering food to rooms. I'm like, room service, you mean? Like, we can call it that. So he was using the elevator as one does. Now, elevators at the time were still, I don't know that they were new, but I think the use of like electricity and man-powered elevators was still kind of like a thing. I don't know if this was like a hybrid or if it was still fully man-powered. It was hard to get information or anything that makes sense. But there was an elevator operator that had to like turn a wheel to get it to go up and down on the floors. And they used weight. So it sounds like maybe it wasn't electric. But anyway, this operator was 17 years old and his name was Robert White. This had to be his first job, which like seemed
Yeah.
like a bad call.
Yeah.
So they're both in the elevator and they're going down from the third floor. So they went to the third floor, delivered food. They're on their way back down. Robert accidentally spins the wheel the wrong way, and then he somehow loses control of it. So the elevator's heavy. It takes a minute to stop, and it's actually starting to pick up speed going back to the third floor. So Robert, who again is a child, opens the door and like jumps out at the third floor. Charles is alone in the elevator and he's like, I have no idea what to do. So he starts to panic and then he hesitates. And then kind of at the last minute, he tries to get out on the third floor as well, but the elevator's still going up. So he hits his head, gets knocked back, and then his legs get pinned as the elevator continues to go up to the fourth floor. So both of his legs snap like fucking twigs.
Oh my
at
God.
the thigh bone.
Oh my
And
God.
then it keeps going. So his legs are just like smushed. And then as it goes up, it releases his legs. Great, right? That's good. But now he's hanging by his foot, which is only attached to his body through a broken leg, hanging, 4 stories up over an elevator shaft.
Oh my God.
So he falls all the way down and cracks his skull on the concrete bottom of the elevator shaft.
Ugh.
He lived long enough to make it to the hospital, which
Oh
is like
God.
horrifying because he definitely did die.
Yeah. Also, the elevator scene, that's from Final Destination.
Yeah, straight up.
Yeah, it is.
Gnarly. Yeah.
Like it is actually.
No, and I know.
I'm not
I
even
know they
joking.
did it. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
they didn't in Final Destination. They severed the legs though entirely. Like he still had
I
his
think-
legs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget which body part, but there's an elevator moment that's very, very similar.
Yeah. So there you go. 4 years later, another waiter at the hotel died by elevator. This was a bit dumber though. He was like, "Oh, how do elevators work?" And he puts his head into the shaft as soon. So the elevator's going up.
Yeah.
Waits till it goes up, and then he looks down, and the 5,000-pound weight that moves the elevator, like it goes down as the elevator goes up, smacked him in the head and just
Okay.
crushed his skull and killed him.
Okay.
That same year, President William McKinley visited the hotel.
Oh.
So clearly, these deaths did not put a damper on things.
Nice forgettable president there.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, "Who? That was a
McKinley.
president?"
Yeah.
I knew, but like, you know, I had that same thought. Like, who gives a shit?
No, yeah. It's like there's a couple of those, like Taylor. You're like, what the forgot this was a president.
Yeah.
Like stupid.
For sure. That's so funny. Okay, so, things are not as glamorous as they seem, despite having
Mhm.
presidents come and curling iron plugins and all the other
Ooh,
shit.
curling irons. Yeah.
Woo. By 1901, the neighborhood kind of started to seep in. So I think that like maybe downtown never ever has actually been anything but kind of gnarly, but they've tried over and over, for literally over 100 years at this point.
Yeah.
Downtown was pretty rough, and even in the Van Nuys, things started to happen. There were fights in the ballroom, waiters and bellboys stealing from people, con men skipping out on bills, just all sorts of like seedy shit, right?
Yeah.
And the next death to occur was an actual murder. So there was Steward Lloyd Alcott, who worked at the Van Nuys in the restaurant. And then they actually had their own butcher, a man named Evan Roberts.
Oh.
The two did not get along, and one night they got into a fight, like an actual like yelling at each other kind of fight. From there was like a back and forth, a little bit of like a mini feud, and this culminated in a knife fight between Evan, Lloyd, and Evan's brother. Lloyd had a knife because it was 2-on-1, and he ended up stabbing Evan to death. So the butcher got knifed. I think he was let off for self-defense, but Evan was dead. So that's a murder. So there's
Wow.
yeah. So that's, the first murder. Then in 1909, a wealthy Chicago heiress named Ada Tilt Otis ingested poison and died in her room after a messy divorce that left her devastated. She wanted to, I wanted to note that her family tried to deny it was a suicide because they cared about how they were viewed, in the
It
public.
sucks. Yeah,
Yes.
but sure.
Yeah. Then in 1911, 2 years later, W. Arthur Phipps, a wealthy and extremely paranoid man, died in his room of cirrhosis of the liver. He'd been in that room with his much younger wife and refused to leave the actual hotel room for months, maybe even like as much as a year. He was afraid that like the mafia was out to get him. So he had everything delivered to the room. They were not allowed to leave.
Sounds like alcoholic, like dementia, when you get like the
Yes.
late stages. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's what it was. Because if you're dying of cirrhosis, it's because you're drinking.
Yeah.
His much younger wife ended up with all of his money and got to leave the hotel. So she did her time and then lived
Okay.
a happy life. So good for her.
someone made it the best out of it, I guess.
Get that money, girl. So things continue to go downhill from there. With the Van Nuys attempted to keep its like shiny exterior. There were no more deaths until 1924, but things just got like kind of worse and worse. William Collier ingested a cyanide pill in front of a bellboy who was helping him pack.
Oh my God.
Like, that poor bellboy, like,
he couldn't have waited till he got to his room. Like, he had to just do it right then.
Right then and there.
Wow.
Well, this guy's kind of dickhead. He kind
of wanted to make a thing of it. Like,
yeah. Well, I'm gonna read you his suicide note because he's
Okay.
the biggest fucking man baby ever.
Okay.
He had just received a notice of divorce from his wife Ida, and this was how he was like punishing her for what she did. To my wife, Ida Collier, my darling, I go never more to return. I have done my best, and this is the only way I can give you the freedom you crave. I leave you with your conscience. I wish I could prevent the suffering you are going to have to endure, which he's doing on purpose. You can't escape that inner being which will gnaw at your vitals to your dying breath. You made me a cheat and a liar before the world, and I gladly assumed the burden for you. You murdered my soul. Now you kill my body. There's a plane, but I'm going to keep reading, guys. Sorry if it sounds weird. So as you go through life, think of the soul roasting in hell because of you. Each night, watch my face float before you, and each day hear the moans of the tormented soul you blasted and sent to hell for eternity.
Wow. First of all, great reading, Cindy. That was really good. Also, so this kind of guy has always existed. This is an evergreen character.
Evergreen character, yes.
You murdered my soul, really. It's like, wow. Okay. Yeah. Wow. What a special baby man.
Yeah. I hope that Ida Collier had like the best life after this and never fucking thought about him again.
I hope she never felt bad for a nanosecond.
Not even for a minute. Yeah. All right. Moving on. In 1929, Consolidated Hotels took over the lease, and that's when the name was changed to the Barclay. But if you walk by, you can still see it says Van Nuys in like kind of like an Art Deco kind of
the paint
vibe.
Or in a sign.
No, it's like etched in stone. Like this is a fancy ass place. So there's a stone on the outside of the building that's like part of the building that has Van Nuys etched in it. It's kind of amazing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. This is, it signaled a new era. This is kind of where people like Charles Bukowski come along. Barflies, kind of the downtown like rat scene, where everybody's kind of gnarly, dingy, dark days of DTLA. In 1937, Elizabeth Reese, a rich 71-year-old, checked in as part of her solo trip around the world. A few days later, she was found in her room with her skull horrifically fractured. She was seated in a chair. She checked in alone. Nobody ever saw anybody with her. There was a brick in her bed, as well as a ton of her blood. Nothing had been stolen. Like, she had a giant diamond ring on her finger, and it wasn't taken. So we don't know what happened, and it's unclear if she survived. But I'm going to probably go with no.
A brick, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to say she probably died. That same year, 1937, a woman named Doris Fowler, who'd come to LA to find work after graduating college, skipped out on her bill after leaving a note about how unfair the world was, that she was educated and didn't even have enough money for food. 3 days later, she was found on a park bench with no recollection, not only of like what had happened, but of who she even was. So that's just fucking spooky.
Wow. I think the hotel has like got some paranormal curse shit happening.
Something. I mean, at this point,
it's like scrambling people's brains.
Yeah. It's fucking gnarly. So this next one happens in 1944, so 50 years after the building was beginning to be built. This was a waitress with a bad drinking problem. She was also sometimes part of the sex trade. Her name was Virgie Lee Griffin. She lived and worked in downtown LA, as definitely was the era for this. She was married, but I think it was a mess. She was drinking in a downtown bar, maybe the 400 Club, which was around at that time, when she met a handsome former sailor named Otto Stephen Wilson. She and Otto hit it off. He invited her back to his hotel room at the Barclay Hotel. The next morning, the maid went in to clean and found quite a scene. Virgie had been strangled to death, and her body was mutilated. And I wanted to say, if anybody listened to last week when I did Danny Rolling, it's like the identical. Fucking crazy. Yeah.
Oh my God.
She had been slit with a razor from her sternum to her pelvis. Her insides had been pulled out and strewn around her body. Both of her breasts had been cut off, and one leg and one arm were partially severed. Gnarly,
Holy
right?
shit. Okay.
Before leaving the hotel, Otto asked a maid not to disturb his wife, but eventually someone went in the room. Meanwhile, the same day that Virgie was found, Otto went and found another woman at another bar, took her to another hotel called the Joyce, which I can't find where it was, I'm sure the
Okay.
building's still there. And did
Yeah.
the exact same thing to her.
What the fuck?
Two
He
in
just
2
can't
days.
stop, won't stop. He's just
Can't
doing
stop,
it.
won't stop. But he did get stopped.
Wow.
That same day, he was found drinking in a bar, and cops arrested him. He was convicted of both murders and died in the gas chamber. California gassed him in
Whoa.
1946.
Whoa. How long did that go on till? That's
I don't know, but
bananas.
1946 feels kind of recent for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Because that's the gas. If you guys know about the gas chamber, it's horrific. So
Yeah. It's what
Yeah.
Nazis did to
yeah,
people.
it's insane, and we did that in California. So
Yeah.
prior to these murders, he had been married, but he was abusive, and his wife left him after he cut her buttocks with a razor and drank her blood while apologizing for cutting her. Yeah.
What?
So this was like,
what a visual. Okay.
yeah. So who knows? Like maybe he drank blood of the bodies. I don't know. Kind of fucking crazy.
Okay.
So now we're
Cool.
going to jump forward to the 70s. 50s and 60s, I'm sure a lot of bad shit happened, but nothing particularly of note. So the hotel's in complete disarray at this point. There's multiple fires in the hotel, which claimed 3 lives in total.
Set by ghosts.
Yeah, probably. Fuck, right?
Yeah.
In 1975, there was yet another murder, this time in room 528. The victim was a drifter named Samuel Suarez, and the murderer was actually a serial killer known as the Skid Row Slasher.
What?
Yeah. His real name is Vaughn Orrin Greenwood. And in 1974 and 1975, he killed 9 people in downtown LA's Skid Row.
That would be cool to cover like more in depth.
That's it. That's my next note. So
Yeah.
he actually had other murders and then went to prison in Chicago and then came back and like finished.
Yeah.
He had a very interesting MO. He would slit their throats from ear to ear, drink their blood. So there's our second blood drinker in this hotel.
Second blood drinking. Okay.
And then leave a cup of their blood and a ring of salt around their bodies. Yeah.
Okay. Also, that's Richard Chase. He would leave the Dixie cup full of blood. That
Right?
was how he drank it.
Yeah. So gross. There's also a link to Burt Reynolds in his story, so we really need to like cover this. Anyway,
wow.
he was caught in 1977, given life in prison, and died in 2020. In 1985, the Barclay was given status as an historic cultural monument, which is fair but also ironic to this story.
Yeah.
Like cultural. It's now officially used as low-income housing, but sort of had unofficially been that for like a very long time. And I do want to say that low-income housing in Los Angeles is a fucking joke. In the rooms you can see them, they're like maybe 400 square feet. It's a single bed, a tiny bathroom, a mini fridge, and they can rent for as much as $750 a month.
Yeah.
They don't even have a kitchen.
Yeah. No, it's not livable. It's not that much different than just a homeless shelter.
No.
I mean, like at the end of the day, and it's like really depressing that we don't put any care into them, and their rent is still too high for.
The lowest it goes is 400, which feels fair for that room, but 750 is like you should have a room in a house and like full access. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So the last death, this is the last one. It was a firefighter who fell from the building during a training exercise. Apparently, firefighters use the Barclay often for training exercises.
Oh.
And in 2017, 29-year-old Kelly Wong, a married father with an infant son at home, fell and died. And I think that's the curse of the Barclay.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, be careful. You can't be on the exterior of this thing. Like, be careful. Like, it's like
terrifying.
Got dangerous vibes.
Yes. So that's the story. I hope everybody enjoyed it.
That was good. And that was also good because the other one you're doing is so well known. And so like this is like the lesser known cursed hotel cousin.
Yes.
Around the corner.
I think actually Murder to Murder, Barclay has more.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
In the hotel.
Yeah.
So
and gnarlier ones like dismemberment and blood drinking and like this is so cursed. I want to go inside. Let's go.
We should. I bet I've actually walked inside before. It's fucking cool, but it's gnarly because it's just in disarray. Like there's a place called the Alexandria Ballrooms. There are these beautiful old buildings in downtown Los Angeles. I mean, just unbelievably gorgeous. And they're fucking filthy. And they're just completely, I don't know why we cannot get our shit together on downtown Los Angeles because we're destroying like beautiful history. It's
also because landlords and property managers are greedy parasites.
Yeah, and they don't give a fuck. They'll if it made them more money and they were allowed, they would tear these buildings down.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Bullshit high rises with Home Depot fixtures. You know, it's fucked up.
Yeah.
Ugh. All right. Anyway,
All right.
we're on a timeline, so
Okay.
We'll rant later.
I'm excited for my next one because I was so stoked that I realized this could be on the list. It's the Luxor in Las Vegas. I love Las Vegas. We were just talking about this the other day. It's a trashy hellscape, but I kind of love it.
That's all of Vegas, I think.
Yeah. And it's definitely like it's already kind of a dirty place. Like everything's a little sticky, everything's a little suspect. Like, it's already kind of trashy. But I didn't realize it had so many curses and hauntings. And like, that just sort of surprised me because it feels like a very new place. Like it's not been around that long.
Yeah. So they're really packing it in.
But it's had a density of fucked up shit happen there, I think. So the Luxor opened in 1993. So again, this is a quick curse. This is like boop, 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 boop. It is a giant black obsidian pyramid. That is the hotel, if you haven't seen it. It is actually the third largest pyramid in the world. So they built it like to scale.
That's so Vegas.
It's so Vegas. There's a big sky beam thing shooting off the top of the pyramid, this big light. It's one of the brightest lights on Earth. You can see it from like 1 billion miles away.
That's probably good for the environment and everything.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Nothing about Vegas is good for the environment.
Yeah, no.
And in front of the pyramid, there's like a hokey mini sphinx, right? That's sort of the iconic thing. But I do want to say that, like, especially on the opening time, but also now, you see a lot of like bloggers and reviewers and commentators in my research that were like, these beautiful replicas of like exactly, wow, it's just exactly what Egypt looks like. And I'm like, oh boy, people are dying. like, oh no. Do people look at this Sphinx and think it's like a replica? That's very concerning to me. So anyway, not to like shame people who don't know about ancient Egypt, but like,
but just like don't talk about it. Like, don't talk about it like you know what you're talking about.
If you're gonna say it looks exactly like the Sphinx, take a minute to Google the Sphinx.
Right.
Like just take a minute.
People just love to say things.
Yeah. Also, this is totally unrelated, but I have to say that I once watched some like just to fall asleep, like some show about like flying over Vegas and like the things you see. And one little vignette was about the fucking poor people who every fucking morning have to squeegee clean the Luxor pyramid because it's in a fucking dust storm, perpetual dust storm desert. Why would you build a jet black pyramid in the middle of a dust storm? So because
you're rich enough to think that, well, and they're right because they have people who take care of it, right?
Yeah, no, but it's stupid because like every single day they squeegee it, and it just gets dusty again. Like,
of course, an hour later.
Yeah,
I mean, it's keeping people working, I guess, doing fucking bullshit.
I'm sure they are treated horribly. Anyway,
God.
So the Luxor was also built on a spot on the Strip that people are like 90% sure was a mass grave for mafia victims of the Las Vegas Mafia. So that could be a good start here.
Okay, yeah.
Starting us off haunted. It's also thought that up to 7 construction workers died during the construction process.
Oh, fuck.
People are pretty sure about that. Like pretty sure.
Yeah.
At least like 3 and as up to much as 7.
Oof.
So we're pretty sure that cursed it from the start. Like, I think that's a good way to start cursed.
Yeah.
It also took 18 months to build, which is fucking ludicrously fast for that huge of a structure.
Yeah, especially, well, I mean, in the 90s, I guess they had the technology to do it, but like that still feels fucking.
That is very dumb. It cost $375 million.
Wow.
It has 4,400 rooms. And for how big it was, that's actually cheap. They cut a lot of corners. Like, they built it quickly and cheaply for what it is. It's a fucking pyramid, like, the size of an Egyptian pyramid. And they're just like, quick, we got to do this as fast as possible.
I'm sure that went really well. I'm sure that was like super.
And then cutting corners and trying to do this cheaply caused lots of issues with the actual structure.
Of course.
Very quickly, they discovered that it was slowly sinking.
The
whole thing. So they had to kind of reassess, and I don't know if it still is sinking, but they had to kind of reassess some things there. And
for that much money, and it's still sinking.
Yes. I don't know if it's still sinking today, but it was for a minute.
Right.
They also did not even really finish it when they declared it's open. Yay, grand opening. Like, some rooms were still being constructed, which is cool. This is a capitalist tale here.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's like such a like rich white dude thing. Like, I want it open now, so it's open. I don't give a fuck. Like that.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Cool.
Exactly. It's also been speculated that the design of the Luxor itself has led to its curse. And I fully believe this because they're fucking with some very serious iconography and like the Egyptian symbolism and hieroglyphs and pyramids are like not to be fucked with. You know, they're like taking some very serious symbolism and just scrambling it in a cocktail shaker. And they'll be like, this is fine.
This is good.
Yeah. And just as one example that's often cited, sphinxes were supposed to protect a pyramid from evil forces and evil spirits. But in order for this to work, you need one on either side. But they didn't do that because they're not going for authenticity. They just smacked one on there. So this leaves the west side vulnerable to evil spirits.
Right. Which, like, if you don't care about that kind of thing, don't open yourself up to it. Like, put none. Like,
I'm sorry. Like, just straight up, like a giant black pyramid, it's gonna attract some shit. Like, it's like a. I'm not a witch expert as much as I should be, but it's a fucked up shape. It's a fucked up shape, dude.
No, you're asking for it.
Yeah,
they're clearly because we're here right now, so they got what they asked for,
and we haven't even gotten started yet. That's just setting the stage. So the hotel has seen a ton of suicides, and what's actually very disturbing about these is that because of the nature of the building, you can't really jump out like onto the pyramid. So the way people kill themselves in the Luxor is they jump into the atrium.
Oh, fuck.
So the way I looked at I've never seen the interior before this, but it's a big pyramid-shaped cavernous space in the middle, right? Like a big giant atrium. It's a huge space. And then there's like balconies kind of, you walk out of your hotel room and you're looking onto the atrium with a little balcony. So you could just jump over.
So there's like an outside on the inside.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so people jump into the atrium where it's full of people.
Right.
And guests. One woman killed herself and landed in the buffet.
I'm sorry. That's funny. It just is.
It's insane. Yeah. They later closed that same buffet.
I would think. Jesus.
Yeah. Someone else landed on the checkout desk. Like,
God.
That's where that shit is. And they're just jumping.
They should probably put a net. Like, I'm just.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Like, it's a very simple solution. But okay, here we go. Anyway, They didn't. So.
No. But it's also a crazy design because I bet a lot of people have fallen accidentally too. Because
for sure.
Literally drunk people, or whoever, you literally walk out and there's a little stupid balcony and then this giant cavernous empty space.
I mean, I get vertigo in there and fucking fall.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, for sure. And the first suicide there was reported in 1996, a couple years after opening. But there's just, I won't even go through them all. There's tons and tons of suicides. At least one guest there has some suspicion. At least one article I saw said that they probably were pushed in a fight. But it was labeled a suicide.
Right.
A 16-year-old girl named Sarah Gruber was found robbed, sexually assaulted, and strangled to death.
Oh, shit.
There, I think in a year, I think it's in the 90s. A maid found her body, and she had sadly run away from home and had been working as a sex worker. And she checked into the hotel with a fake ID because obviously she's a teenager.
Right.
A 30-year-old man named Michael Hathaway, and I want to just point out he was the son of a police lieutenant. Was ultimately charged for her murder. I'm not sure if he was a client or what the fuck he was doing. And anyway, he was a murderer, exploiting a child, probably.
Right, and then killed her. What a piece of shit.
Yeah. He pled guilty to first-degree murder and sexual assault to get parole. So we got a nice plea deal there.
Okay.
Yeah. Just a random fact, 90s fact as well. Tupac was staying at the Luxor when he was murdered.
Oh, shit.
As well.
That's a very Tupac place to stay, I feel.
Oh, I feel like he would stay nowhere else. Yeah.
Yeah.
What, is Tupac going to stay at Excalibur? No.
Yeah, no. So fair.
No.
Oh my God.
So 2007, Villabaldo Durante Antonio was killed by a homemade bomb in the Luxor parking lot.
Oh, fuck.
And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this case because it's kind of like the most elaborate one that's ever happened there. Villabaldo was a 24-year-old Mexican immigrant who worked at Nathan's famous hot dog restaurant at the food court. He had just immigrated only 2 weeks earlier from Puebla.
Oh, shit.
And he had clearly wasted no time hustling because he already worked there and at a restaurant at the Excalibur Hotel. So he's working 2 jobs, probably brutal, backbreaking jobs to send money back home to his family in Puebla.
Ugh.
He left work with his girlfriend, Charlie, who also worked at Nathan's. And as he was getting in his car in the parking lot, he noticed a soda cup on top of his car. And when he just picks it up to toss it to the side, it fucking explodes because it was covering a tiny secret bomb.
Why? Oh my god, that's fucked up.
It's really fucked. It tore a hole in the roof of the car and exploded shrapnel everywhere. It basically blew up his hand, and one piece of shrapnel pierced Villalbaldo's brain.
Oh, that's fucked up.
Really sad. Luckily, Charlie managed to escape unharmed. I think she was like a little ways away.
Mm-hmm.
He would later die at the hospital. Super sad. Parts of the casino were evacuated,
Okay.
but they definitely. Well, okay, so the investigators conclude, I'll get back to the casino in a second.
Mm-hmm.
Investigators conclude that this was a homicide that targeted Villalbaldo specifically. But his family are like, we have no fucking idea why anyone would want to kill him. He's just a chill, normal dude. Eventually, his girlfriend, Charlie's ex-boyfriend, Omar Rueda Denvers, is charged, as is his friend Porfirio Duarte Herrera. And the prosecution alleges that Porfirio built a pipe bomb with a motion sensor for Omar. So he's the bomb builder.
Got it.
They staged it on Villalbaldo's car. And I guess Charlie had originally immigrated with Omar, but he dumped her and got a new girlfriend. But yet, in traditional abusive ex fashion, he was mad, however, and jealous when she got a new boyfriend.
Yeah, what a fucking
And so he was
shit.
so mad that Villalbaldo was in Charlie's life, even though he was dating. And Charlie had a 1-year-old with Omar, and he was using visits with the child to beat Charlie.
What
so
the
he was
fuck?
Attacking her. He was stalking her. So you get the picture of the kind of guy he was.
Yeah.
I believe they get life sentences at some point.
Good.
You know.
Good.
Also, they're Mexican immigrants. They're going to get the book thrown at them.
Absolutely. But in this case, like, that's fine. Their status has nothing to do with the fact that they're horrible humans, especially that fucking guy. Fuck him.
Yeah. So that's fucked up. But I want to say also that, like, with a lot of Vegas crimes, this is a whole other topic, there's a bit of a hush-hush where they release statements saying this will not happen again. This was probably before they know this. They release a statement saying...
Isolated incident.
Yes, this is an isolated incident. It was targeting one person. They don't really, like, freak out, like, as much as they should. Like, could there be a bomber afoot? They don't know. They're just sort of like, shh.
Yeah, they're like, everything's fine. Keep spending money.
Yes, please. Keep playing the penny slots. So they don't quite evacuate the way they should or, like, freak out. Like, shh, this was fine. So in 2010, DeMario Reynolds, who was a football player at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, got into a fight with his friend Jason Sindelar, who happened to also be an MMA fighter. They started fighting because this very cool MMA guy, Jason, hit his girlfriend, was physically abusing his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And DeMario, as I know many men in my life would do, said, hey, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And, you know, kind of like intervened and pulled him aside. And in the fight that they got into, what's his face? Jason punched DeMario just like very hard. And DeMario just died.
That's fucked.
Like from one bad punch.
I mean, that can happen. Yeah.
It definitely can. And Jason, I want to point out that DeMario is black and Jason is a white MMA fighter. Just
so I'm about to be really mad at the sentencing. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why you know that's why I'm pointing it out.
Yes.
I wouldn't point it out for no reason if this went as it should. So Jason was charged with involuntary manslaughter.
Oh God.
But this was dismissed after a medical examiner testified that it's possible that DeMario died from a heart arrhythmia or overdose, as he did have high quantities of ecstasy and cocaine and alcohol in his system. And lots of people have called bullshit on this because I'm like, what's the chance I'm sorry. Okay, first of all, overdose is wild because like, is he going to overdose the exact second he's punched?
Yeah, that's a weird, like, that'd be the coincidence of like a lifetime.
And also heart arrhythmia, like, okay, that's possible, but like, either
what was the
way,
contributing factor that caused
exactly.
it?
I'm like,
punched.
If it was a heart thing, then the punching caused it. Like,
right.
So
okay.
Yeah. Anyway, he gets like off basically completely.
I'm sure he's still beating women like freely and openly.
Oh yeah,
his white man status.
Fucking asshole for sure. Yeah, so that's some bullshit that happens. In 2012, a worker at the casino was murdered in the lobby by her boyfriend in front of guests.
Jesus Christ.
In 2012, there was an outbreak of Legionnaire's disease.
Oh, fuck.
Which implies you're drinking bacteria in the water.
Yes, it does.
Yep.
Oh, that's so gnarly.
Yeah, one person died and at least 2 other people got sick. And of course, the hotel was like, shh, what? Nothing happened. Everything's fine. Drink all the water you want.
Yeah.
Just put your mouth on that faucet, go to town.
All good. Penny slots are over here.
Yeah, and also in 2012, someone fell down the elevator shaft about 25 feet in what has been described as a mysterious, quote-unquote, fall. I also saw that they were fighting with someone and fell, quote-unquote.
Oh,
but it's not clear what happened there.
Okay.
In 2013, lightning struck the Luxor.
Oh my God.
And it was a huge lightning storm. Yeah, I just wanted to point that out as if it wasn't cursed enough.
Yeah. It's like a flashing sign, like, this place is fucking cursed.
Yeah. As a result of all these various events, from the construction worker deaths onward, the Luxor Hotel is fucking haunted as fuck.
Yeah.
It's like the most notoriously haunted hotel in Vegas. Major ghosts include a blonde lady who haunts the 12th floor. And you can read online and watch YouTube videos. There's 1,000 stories of people saying people who sound like very credible too, just leaving comments being like, I will never fucking stay at this hotel again.
Right.
Like, oh my God. I didn't believe in ghosts until I stayed at the fucking Luxor. Like that was when I saw.
Right.
People report having hands on their faces, being choked, all kinds of things, being fucking physically assaulted in their rooms from 1990. Yeah, I wanted to stay there too. I had no idea. Now I'm like not sure.
Yeah, not sure. You're not like a hard no yet. You're still like, well,
maybe. The buffet looks really good. I watched it on YouTube.
The one that didn't get crushed.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Look, I love a buffet.
Dude, me too though. No, I agree. Oof. I'm there. I feel
But I always make myself ill a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, fuck yeah. You're not doing it right if you're not leaving like regretting everything you just did.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
You gotta get seconds and thirds. From 1993 to 1996, this is my favorite like haunted Luxor story. From 1993 to 1996, there was a Nile River ride. There was basically in the interior of the building in this atrium, there was a river that ran through like various parts, and they
like
reportedly
a lazy river.
Yeah, well, there was like a river ride, like you would get like a Disneyland ride thing and go through the river. And they reportedly had to shut it down because of the overwhelming quantity of ghosts. Like that was literally why they shut it down. Like according to multiple different reports.
That's fucking wild.
People would see the ghosts of specifically construction workers
who died
in the construction of the building. And literally it was too ghosty to continue. They were like, we have to.
Okay, that makes me want to go on it. Like,
no, it's gone. So they shut it down because of the ghostiness.
And
they got rid of the river. And on also, by the way, in Japanese culture, they think water attracts ghosts. So maybe that's a thing. Maybe they were hanging out by the river.
Okay. That's cool. That's cool. I didn't know that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Lots of horror movies with water.
That's so true. That's so true. I never thought about.
And then also, there's a really funny Reddit page I saw where people were like being nostalgic about how they had been on the ride before when it was originally open. And one person said it was made the whole place smell like chlorine. Another person called it the drywall tour because you were just looking at like big pieces of drywall. It's like there was not a lot to see on the tour. You were just going through like the backs of buildings and ghosts.
That's so funny. What a random and pointless thing. I kind of love it.
Yeah, so that was the also I forgot one thing. There's also an exhibition of hundreds of objects, like the collection of stuff from the fucking Titanic.
Oh, that's not ominous. Like,
yeah, and that's the exhibition they have at the Luxor. And people have reported the exhibition being haunted. People have reported Titanic ghosts are now mingling with the regular Luxor ghosts.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
No, it is fun. It's a ghost convention. You have the construction workers. You have all the murder victims. You have all the suicide victims. And then you have Titanic people. And I fully, like, people might be, like, rolling their eyes, but I fully believe that objects carry, like, spirits and energies. And so, and there's also, like, a fucking full-on replica of that grand staircase. You know, like the one from the movie?
Yeah.
There's, like, a to-scale replica of huge...
asking for it here.
A huge parts of the boat. And I'm sorry, if you were a Titanic ghost, like frozen in the Titanic moment, why wouldn't you want to hang out on the replica?
Right.
With all your stuff.
Right.
Like,
Duh. They're asking for it. They're like, let's be real haunted here. Yeah.
Woo.
So there it is, eh?
yeah, now I want to go.
Fair. All right. That's the first half. Thanks for listening, guys. Hope that was fun for y'all. We'll be back with the second half, which we're actually going to record right now, but you don't get it for a couple more days. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to join us on Patreon. One of our listeners told me that they had trouble joining us on Patreon, so I reached out to Patreon, they're super hard to get a hold of. So waiting to see. But if you guys have problems with it, will you email us and tell us? We'll skip all the stuff. You know where to find us. Thanks for listening, and until the next half,
Stay
off our